Hair Extensions. Written by Toxic Pineapple. Read by Rashi. Celeste cuts a striking figure, both with and without her hair extensions. In fact, it's the first thing Kyoko noticed about her. Or one of them. The first was actually that Celestia Ludenberg couldn't possibly be her birth name, and that the French accent must be fake. But, well, Kyoko is a detective first and a human second. That much was only natural. That Celeste was pretty crossed her mind directly after, as Celeste picked up her gloved hand and bent to plant a kiss on the back. Kyoko isn't easy to fluster, but she has to admit that her heart skipped a beat at the feeling of Celeste's warm lips pressing against her hand. She wondered, watching those corkscrew curls bounce, what it would feel like for Celeste to kiss her directly on the hand, with the scars and everything. But she didn't humor the thought for more than a moment, brushing it aside and turning away so Celeste wouldn't see her face burn. Emotions like that were only a weakness in her area of work, and Kyoko wasn't at Hope Speak Academy to make friends. She was there for a good reason, and no beautiful gambler with striking red eyes would change that fact. Or, that's what she thought at the time. Kyoko is, unfortunately, not immune to human attachments, and it was hard not to grow endeared to the other girl through relentless challenges and later intimate moments shared late at night. Rarely did they speak during these times, but Kyoko saw the sentiment was conveyed nonetheless. It was during one of those times that she saw Celeste with her hair down, and that Celeste saw Kyoko with her gloves off in turn. Now, such things come as second nature to them. Celeste wakes up bright and early and opens all of the curtains in the house before brewing a pot of tea. Kyoko knows how she prefers it, but though it goes unstated, she also knows that Celeste takes a certain pleasure in being the one to make their tea in the morning. They both have their little rituals like that, the many ways in which they care for each other. When Kyoko first met Celeste, hair up and mask on, she never would have imagined that such a thing was possible for her. This morning, Kyoko sits beside her girlfriend in the dining room and leans over to run her bare fingers through Celeste's short hair, marveling as she often does at the soft feeling of it slipping through her fingers. Celeste's brown eyes flit in Kyoko's direction, and she hums, voice still a bit thick with sleep. Without speaking, Celeste leans into her touch, and Kyoko indulges her with another sweep through her hair. "Why do you keep your hair short?" Kyoko questions eventually, voice lowered. One would think that after years of dating, Kyoko would know the answer to this question by now. But Celeste likes her secrets, and the two of them rarely discuss such insignificant details to begin with. Besides, Kyoko likes how Celeste looks with the clip-ons, and off, so it's not a huge deal to her. She is curious, though. Is it a matter of convenience? Celeste's eyes close, and she picks up her teacup, taking a lengthy sip of the pale brown liquid before she speaks. "In a sense, but that is hardly my primary motivation." She remains still like that for a moment, the teacup held against her lips, and her eyes closed, head tilted slightly into Kyoko's hand. Kyoko wonders if she should resume the petting motion, but Celeste hasn't done much by way of communication, either nonverbal or direct, so she keeps it still for the moment, waiting for her girlfriend to continue. "Some days I like to wear my hair short, yes. Perhaps not on the days when I have somewhere to be, but for lounging around with you like this, it is the ideal hairstyle." It's true. Kyoko's hair is so long that it often tangles while they're cuddling. It makes the whole experience just a bit inconvenient, but not enough to cut it. Kyoko likes how the long hair makes her feel, and certainly not enough to stop cuddling together. Thoughtlessly, Kyoko ruffles the short hairs on the back of Celeste's head and watches her girlfriend smile. "But I enjoy having my hair long as well. Like this, I can have any hairstyle I please." Celeste gestures towards her head, eyes still unopening. "If I were to grow it out, however—" "Ah, I see. Having short hair affords you a certain level of freedom of expression that long hair doesn't." Kyoko nods, and Celeste finally opens her eyes, smiling. Celeste is pretty good with words, but she can be intentionally vague at times. It's a point of pride for Kyoko that she knows exactly how to decipher what the other woman is saying. Honestly, she would hope so, after all of these years. But still, as a detective, Kyoko can't afford to become sloppy, even in her domestic life. That's practical. "I'm a practical person, mon chéri," Celeste coos. Kyoko scoffs at the term of endearment, turning her head away so Celeste won't catch her flush, An old habit. But hearing Celeste speak in French always gets her a little worse than anything else. Really, it's embarrassing. Perhaps those without an eye for aesthetics would not think so, but everything you do is calculated. Kyoko agrees, closing her eyes. I know that as well as anybody. Celeste doesn't respond aloud this time, but Kyoko feels the other woman's fingertips, warm, against the bottom of her chin, carefully guiding her back to face Celeste. It's a good thing Kyoko has her eyes closed, because she's sure she would blush even darker at the gesture if she was seeing everything. As she is, she lets out a breath to dispel some of the butterflies in her stomach, then finally lets her eyes fall open. Celeste is smirking at her. Kyoko steadies her shoulder and quirks an eyebrow, determined to keep her composure. Really, it's embarrassing that Celeste still has such a pull over her. They've been living together for well over a year, and dating for even longer. But Kyoko can't help it. She could never love someone who didn't challenge her in the way that Celeste does. And well, it's hard for her to back down from a challenge, even if that challenge is unbearably smug and unbearably attractive. Yes, indeed. Celeste's fingers dance down Kyoko's jaw, pausing right beneath her ear. Suddenly, Kyoko gets the feeling that Celeste isn't just talking about her hair. You have quite the eye for recognizing my schemes, detective. Kyoko exhales. We should at least eat before getting into any of that. She gently pushes Celeste's arm away by the wrist, getting up. Celeste is a lousy cook, so although Kyoko isn't the most skilled in the kitchen, and generally avoids burners overall if she can help it, most of the domestic tasks fall to her. Have you eaten? She asks, but she knows what the answer is going to be. Celeste doesn't eat before she's had her first cup of tea in the morning. True to form, Celeste shakes her head. Her eyes are still swimming with mirth, and it takes all of Kyoko's self-restraint not to let out a grumble as she makes her way into the kitchen. She's ignoring it. She isn't going to buckle to Celeste before she's even had something to eat. That just feels like going into it with a completely unfair disadvantage. Not wanting to spend too much time on food, Kyoko splits a couple of breakfast biscuits and sticks them in the toaster, and spreads jam on them when they're done. A light, simple breakfast that pairs well with tea. Celeste will surely appreciate her eye for these things. Using chopsticks to transfer the biscuits onto a couple of tea plates, Kyoko returns to the dining table, sliding both plates in front of Celeste, and tapping her girlfriend on the shoulder, gesturing for her to scoot out. Celeste does so with raised eyebrows, but a smile creeps onto her face when Kyoko climbs into her lap, as well as the slightest of flushes. Celeste is difficult to crack, even harder than Kyoko herself, so these rare expressions of genuine emotion are a treat. Kyoko cups the back of Celeste's head with both hands now, fingers threading through silky black locks, and leaning down to press their lips together. When she pulls back, Kyoko murmurs, Well, in case I didn't make it clear, I like your hair at any length. A low hum resonates through Celeste's chest. Her hands lift to rest against Kyoko's waist. I am well aware of this fact, she murmurs. Her eyes open a bit wider, and her lip twitches as she adds, I must say, detective, are you telling me you think I'm pretty? Kyoko scoffs, resting their foreheads together and planting another kiss on Celeste's lips. Then another. Did I say that? I don't remember saying that. How cruel of you to deny me this, Celeste sighs, tilting her head back and parting her lips. Kyoko is unable to help herself, kisses her again. Against her mouth, Celeste mumbles, I've no idea how I came to such a conclusion. You are quite the cold-hearted lover. It's more productive that way. Kyoko indulges in one last kiss, then draws back, sweeping her thumb over Celeste's bottom lip. Her mouth tasted like sweet tea. You need to eat breakfast. Maybe I'll tell you you're pretty after that. And not a second sooner? Celeste's brows quirk, and her lower lip juts out, pressing into Kyoko's thumb. Would you truly make me beg? Another scoff, and another kiss. This time, Kyoko pulls back completely, reaching behind her to pick up a biscuit and holding it out for Celeste to eat. This is all embarrassing on its own, but Kyoko finds it easier to keep her cool in this position. Celeste, on the other hand, turns a pretty shade of red. Kyoko smiles. You don't need to beg, Taiko. Kyoko pats Celeste's cheek with her free hand. You already know you're the most beautiful person I've ever seen, no matter what your hair looks like. It bears repeating, Celeste insists, but her voice is softer now, almost flustered. Her ears have taken on that red shade. Without another petulant remark, Celeste takes a bite out of the biscuit, not breaking eye contact even for a moment. Okay, that's almost enough to fluster Kyoko. She clears her throat, but doesn't back down, only smiling faintly as she watches her girlfriend's expression. They dance around the truth often, especially so in times like this. But for once, Kyoko hopes that Celeste can see her feelings painted right across her face. The embarrassment, the attraction, the love. She wouldn't know how to put them into words after all. So, it's only fair that Celeste should know without having to be told.